we have a Honda here today. It has lots of power, knocking noise. Also, you're never gonna guess what we're gonna do on the end. A wet belt. Let's dig in and find out what's wrong with this. The first thing obviously is going to be scanning the car because engine management light is on. I wonder why. Oh man, this is a lot. Let's see what we have here. 8 fault codes. They are worded differently because they are coming from different sensors. All 8 is pointing towards oil pressure problem. We know by experience why the oil pressure could be gone on a wet belt system. Oh, there's a little bit of that. Now this is a little bit concerning. We can't say nothing for sure yet. At first glance, we have a gearbox oil leak. It's amazing, I don't know how, but Honda drive belts, they wear off super slow. I drive a FN2 Type R. I had it for 3 years. The previous owner had it since 2008. Never changed this belt. It's just durable. We're just gonna wedge it to the side. Ah, there we go. Okay, I need something bigger. Okay, let's gun him out. Always need to make sure you put the correct length of bolt back where it came from. We are at 3 different lengths. See that? Coffee colored? Yeah, there is coolant in there. I'm pretty sure it's hot because we have coolant.
Funnily enough, we got a Honda wet belt. Honda's reliable, Honda's this, Honda's that. Not anymore. Bosh. There's the shit for the wet belt.
This is pieces of wet belt. The usual. Not even the Japanese can make a material that withstands the oil. Because we had numerous fault codes for the oil pressure. I want to see what's inside there, whether the ports are blocked off or something. Even at these low revolutions, the oil pump is pumping. In there you can see the pressure regulator, the ball with the spring, that's intact. I don't think there's anything actually wrong with this. There's a little bit of gunk. There are absolutely no signs where the oil pressure have gone. We're gonna carry on by removing the turbo. Oh, right. Like, absolutely cannot stress it enough. Lack of maintenance will destroy an engine. We're gonna get a little bit oily and coolanty up in the top, so we're gonna put the covers on. Yeah, the usual turbo failure is just full of oil. There we go. Rocker cover. Oh man, that's a lot of water. Here you have it, the wet belt on a Honda engine. Same shit like the French or the American. I can't say well done Honda this time, I can't say it. I always say it on my car when I work on that. In this case, I can't say it. Condition of the belt is not too bad. It's not massively degraded yet. Peeling. Because we had boost pressure, fault codes and things like that, they were pointing at the turbo and in the same time towards the intake system. We removed the inlet manifold. We had a look inside and yes, it does need carbon clean. Only 75,000 miles, but it's already carboned up. Believe it or not, it causes more severe problems for petrol engines than it does to diesel engines. So if you have a direct injected petrol, have it done as soon as possible. Well, that's usually a telltale. This one is not blocked. Let's give it a squirt of brake. Yeah, someone's got my brake cleaner. I just squirted some brake cleaner on it to see if it's carboned up. Can't say it's bad. And it goes. Man, I know I'd said funny things about Honda engineers before, but this makes me so happy that I don't need to struggle removing exhaust balls from the turbo. Imagine the EcoBoost. Was there ever an occasion when you put the spanner on and crack it open? It never happens. One more time. Removing exhaust from turbo was never so easy. Whatever you've done, you've done it well. Oh yeah, look, there's a little part in there. Some of the fins of the compressor is actually bent backwards. Yeah, if you look, little buddy over there is a little bit loose.
You ever stuck your finger in a Japanese one, Norman? The Japanese ones are normally tighter than this.
Yeah.
Well, looking at that turbo, there's not a happy ending for this customer, is there?
If the shaft snaps, the oil just basically falls through the turbo, so it's not going to create any sort of pressure. It can trigger the faults that we have seen in the system. So this is definitely a faulty part. We're going to replace this. We're going to advise the customer for the carbon clean, finish it off with a wet belt. I think it's going to be all right. These engines, they heat up super quick, even during warm-up stage. If you have a bad flow on the intake and the exhaust side, the engine just won't fire up. We tested it on diesel engines, we tested it on petrol engines, it's always the same conclusion. In this regard, because the heat-up cycle could never complete, the condensation begins inside the engine. If you have a turbocharged engine, do not stop the engine on the motorway when you stop for fueling. Leave it for a minute, maybe 2 minutes. It's still hot, it's still spinning. If you kill the engine, you kill the oil supply, and you will eventually kill your turbo. It's a long process, it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. Overfueling, lack of air. Well, why would it get air? The turbo was bad. Never do it with a gun. So that in there, it's not a whole lot of trouble, but it definitely does not help for a weak oil system. It's not magnetic, that means it's rubber. You can make one wild guess where it came from. To remove the timing belt, first you need to set up the timing. In this case, it is super easy. No special tools whatsoever, maybe to hold the crank pulley. We have a line, and that line is pointing for that little arrow. That is your crank timed up. You have 2 lines here, single line pointing down. These are level. Should you need to remove the sprocket, you can pin the camshafts in position and easily remove the sprocket. You can actually see the pointer of the tensioner, which is really handy. Most of the times you have to use an Allen key, your spanner, and then a mirror with your third hand to see the pointer behind it. In this case, I can just use my 2 hands, easy to see, not hidden. This is how an engine should be designed. This bit here, and these small ones, these are the bits that started to shred off from the belt, and these are the bits that we have found in the sump strainer and also in the camshaft phaser solenoid mesh, showing signs of that usual wet belt wear. All in all, it's not the worst belt I have seen. Oil pump belt, it's not as bad as the timing belt itself. We have our new crank sprocket. It's the crank seal that goes in the cover. This is the seal for the inner side of the cover. This is the seal with the little mesh filter on the outside of the cover. O-ring and the little mesh for the oil pump. The nut for the engine mount bolts. Rocker cover gasket. Timing belt tensioner. Intake manifold gaskets. Oil pump belt. Timing belt. Another set of engine mount bolts. All of these parts, as you can see, they are genuine Honda parts. In this industry, quality is key. Belt goes on first, the sprocket with the key. We have our marks lined up. So to check the timing, we're going to use the pulley. Also, this is keyed in, so brilliant because it has notches. So on the timing cover externally you can check the timing without taking the cover off. Just a tiny nip, ever so slightly. So now we're just gonna turn the engine around. Pinholes are there, that's flat. That's it. That's what it takes to fit a belt on a Honda. When you have to use silicone sealant on any type of cover, you might want to get your holes cleaned as well. When you squash it between 2 metals, the excess material have to have room. Without that room, you're actually risking of damaging the thread or the bolt itself. Look at that. This is a proper seal. with the spring inside. That is how they were, that is how they should be. You see the residue there? That is a piece of old rubber. This was meant to seal metal to metal, so if you have extra material on it between them, the seal is not going to be perfect. Now, that little bad boy goes in there. Just a little brake cleaner. See that? That would be still on there, and the seal wouldn't be perfect. Before fully doing it up, we're just gonna put all the bolts in. Okay. Nice and clean mesh, like that. Let's see. How do you know a pipe is in the correct position? Most genuine pipes will have a mark, any kind of mark. It could be a line, it could be a spot, it could be anything, and that lines up with something on the counterpart. Easy peasy. When Japanese create rubber seals, they do it in such a way, even if you do the bolt up tight, these rubber seals, they will get squashed to the necessary minimum. In result, it's not gonna go out of shape, so it's easier to reuse it again. And German cars, when they use seals like this, is fully squashed, so the next time when you take it off, the top end is flat. Work your way around it. Oh, look at that. That's caviar. Our system is a walnut blasting system. We need to make sure that valves are closed. We are going to blow in crushed walnut shells with the pressurized air, because they are hard enough to get the carbon and the oily deposit off, but they're not hard enough to scratch or damage any metal. 2 more to go. Obviously we have new gaskets, so we're gonna let that do the work, but it requires just a tiny bit of help on the corners. There, it's important, because that's where the cover meets with the head. Brand new. These gaskets can be reused quite a few times. We are only replacing them because they came with the kit. Copper seal for the turbo oil feed. We have the turbo buttoned up, intake is done, timing is done, rocker cover is done. I'm gonna finish off fitting wiring, vacuum lines, then it's gonna be a road test and it goes back to the customer. How strange, all the condensation is gone. Head gasket, they said. What I said. The job here is done. First time when I took it for a test drive, it felt a little bit low on power, and we just fitted a new turbo, so that didn't check out properly. There was a hose tip I forgot to do up. This is a wrap on the Honda. Drives good. Condensation disappeared. Hose pipe is on.